everybody. Thank you for coming up to our informational interview. Here we're going to have a vet. Her name is Carly Reilly. And thank you. My name is Danya.
I'm Stefan.
Hey.
And let's get started. So here's going to be a quick overview of how this is going to go. So at 4:10, we're going to do introductions, 4:12, group intros, 4:15, interviews, and student questions. 4:55, wrap up and reflection. 5, we're going to end the call. So how to be successful, you may ask. So you can grab a paper and a pen to take notes on the interview, and everyone can ask at least one question. So here are the businesses who have previously supported Passion Impact, and we encourage you to support them whenever you can, especially throughout this time. And if you can shout them out, which are your favorite?
Dave's. Dave's.
Yeah. All right, meeting expectations. Like all of y'all know, we show gratitude and respect for those in the video chat. Rue's watching, so don't mess around with Rue. You're muted. We all know this. So what we'd like to do is just make sure to practice raising your hand so that when you have a question, you can raise your hand. So let's see everybody raise their hand. The way to do that, click participants, click raise hand. All right, we got Caleb, we got Christina, we got Umi. Awesome.
I don't know how to do that.
So if you go to participants, I mean, you don't really need to, but if you like to know how to do it,
okay.
Participants, then raise hand. Plus, these are seasoned veterans of Zoom. They know what they're doing. They've got a lot of time on you in here. No nudity, vulgar, demeaning language, inappropriate sharing your screen, or inappropriate background images will be tolerated, so you might get booted. And depending upon the severity of it, you might not be allowed to come back. So just don't even do that. With that being said, have fun. Let's stay engaged. Without further ado, Danya.
Okay, so here we have Carly Reilly. She's from Scranton, Pennsylvania. She attended Westchester University of Pennsylvania, where she earned a bachelor's degree in biology. She also studied abroad on semester at sea. Currently, she's a student at Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine in St. Kitts, Nevis in the Caribbean. She's putting everything she learned to the test at Cornell University's animal hospitals for this next year. After that, she will officially be Dr. Reilly. She's passionate about traveling, animals, and the environment, and in any way that she can combine them even better.
Awesome. Welcome, Carly. We're going to do some group introductions real quick. So make sure that you have, when it's your turn, that you get your voice unmuted. So Donna, would you take us for a trial run of this to show us how it works?
Yeah, for the group introductions. Okay, so the question of the day is, what is your favorite animal? So, but before that, we're going to say your name, your pronouns, school, and the question of the day. And we're going to popcorn this. So whoever goes, the other person is going to have to popcorn another person. So, okay, I can start with me first. Okay, so my name is Danya. My pronouns is she and her. I go for school. I go to Franklin High School. The question today is, what is your favorite animal? Okay, this is weird because my favorite animal is a hairless cat, but the thing is I've never really seen it, but somehow it's still my favorite. I'll popcorn that to oh my god, to Carly.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Carly. My pronoun is also she and her. My school is Ross University School of Veterinary Medicine in the Caribbean. And question of the day, what is your favorite animal? Mine is a lion, and I've been told you can sometimes learn things about your personality through your favorite animal, so maybe you can analyze that one day. I'm gonna popcorn it to Umi.
Okay. Hi, my name's Umi. I go by she, her pronouns, and I go to Franklin. And I like my cats with hair on them, so my favorite is a kitten. That's just what I like. I'll popcorn it to Christina.
My name is Christina. I go by she, her pronouns. I also go to Franklin. And my favorite animal is, I like huskies and elephants. And I'll popcorn it to Kayla.
Hello, everybody. I am Kayla, and my pronouns are she and her, she, her. And my favorite animal is a polar bear because it's tall, big, and it's cool. And it reminds me of the slushy. But then, yeah, I'll popcorn it to Adriana.
Hi, my name is Adriana. I use she, her pronouns. I don't go to school. I graduated from everything. I don't know. I went to Oregon State University. That's where I got my bachelor's degrees. Okay, so I don't know what this says about me, but I literally could care less and don't have a favorite animal. So I don't know what kind of psychology that tells you about me, but whenever I'm forced to choose, I just pick a dog. Because I don't know, dogs are cute. And now popcorn to Stefan.
I think it says a lot about you. We'll have to dissect that later, Adriana. My name's Stefan. I go by he, him pronouns. I am a graduate of James Madison University. Go Dukes. That's a dog, Adriana. If you didn't know that, go look it up. You might like it. It's cute. What is my favorite animal, though? It is a wolverine because they look cute, but they're fierce. And they are just cave-dwelling animals. Just go look. They're awesome. They're super cool. So, awesome. Passing it back to Danya.
Yeah. Did everybody go? Did Christina go? Yeah. Okay. All right. Passing it back to Stefan.
All right, great. Let's get this party started. First question of the day, Carly. What has been your most exciting memory of your educational experience post high school?
Well, I think that you can probably share this with me, but I would say semester at sea was the most exciting education post high school. For those of you guys who don't know what semester at sea is, we happen to live on a ship and we went to 16 countries all over the world. And so it was just a really exciting time to see all the different cultures, but that's actually kind of what led me into living abroad again for veterinary school. So I took that travel of passion of travel that I had from semester at sea, and I wanted to keep living abroad and seeing new cultures. And so then I went and studied abroad in the Caribbean for a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely can empathize with that one. For those of you who don't know, you don't have to be on your campus for all 4 years of education. There are those study abroad opportunities. What about while you were at school, potentially at Westchester or even at Ross? Like, what about those experiences stuck out to you? Is there one that defined you in there?
Let's see. I think at Ross University down in the Caribbean, there are some really cool opportunities that you can get involved with. You can do sea turtle research, and there's a dolphin training center down there, so you can work with that. And so there's a monkey research center. So there's a lot of different areas that are really cool as far as wildlife that I think was really exciting to be able to participate in down there.
Whoa, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Never heard of that. Aside from that, what are other research opportunities you've done at school?
So when I was an undergrad, I was very intimidated by research students. I thought that they were just kind of a level above me, and I was like, how do you even think of a topic to research? But you really just need to find a topic that you're interested about and maybe talk to your professor after class one day, and it's super easy to come up with a research project. For me, I didn't get involved in anything in undergrad because it was just intimidating for me, but I did get involved with a dental research project down in St. Kitts where we tested how vet students learn better if it's using models or real dogs. And we put together a bunch of students and different ways that we do dentistry on animals. And then we, just compared what was better. But there's so much you can do. I have friends that are also doing research and getting their master's at the same time. So they're going to have their master's plus their doctorate degree. And they're doing that while they're studying. And it is time consuming, but it's also worth it in the end to have those extra credentials.
Huh. That's really interesting. From the courses that I've seen, what were like, it goes back again with like, okay, so what were like your most interested courses for you?
Would that be for undergrad or vet school?
Let's go for undergrad.
Okay, so some things that are unrelated to vet med, and then some things that are. One of my favorite college classes that I took, and I still use so many of the things that I learned in my everyday life, was a psychology of happiness class. It's something that we learned, just daily things that you can do that take 5 minutes, not even, and it seriously improved my happiness from then on. And so maybe if they have that at your college, consider taking it if you need a psychology course. I also took a really cool environmental conservation class. So it tied in together biology, but also it was about the rainforest down in Brazil and like Costa Rica. And it just showed and taught you about just different companies such as the banana industry and how that, changes the land and what are the impacts on society and everything, but the animals also, what's happened to their homes. So I thought that was a really fun course. But in vet school, I think there's so many cool courses and they're very intense, but I loved small animal medicine. So that one was the most credits and the most intense course, but I liked it the most. It was 7 college credits for one semester for one class. It was wild. Yeah. But it taught you to recognize if an animal comes in, and since they can't talk, you have to really use your senses, touch and everything like that to figure out what's going on. And so from the minute that animal comes in, you see what's presented to you, and then how you can run some different tests and maybe use some x-rays and your physical exam, things like that, to get to a final diagnosis. And how you can tell, we call it a differential diagnosis. That means, is it an ear infection? Is it an eye infection? Is it their stomach? And you have to kind of rule those things out to get to your final diagnosis in order to treat that. So I thought that was my most interesting course. And
Uh-oh, your audio's cut out the last part. What was that last part?
It just made me feel like a doctor once I took that course because I was able to finally put things together.
Yeah. It's where we interviewed a nurse and a doctor. We've interviewed some lawyers, and they all have like completely varying levels of education, but it's a lot of education. And I was talking to Donnie about this a little while ago, is that like when you're a doctor of people, we all basically have the same bones, same organs in the same places.
Yep.
As a veterinarian, you've got a lot of different animals that are under your scope. How the heck do you understand all of this? And how is it that you potentially, it's almost the same time length of education for a regular doctor for like people? What's that like? How does that work?
Yep. So I think it varies by different schools of how they structure their program. But for example, mine was, we took 2 semesters of anatomy, and during those 2 semesters, say we learned your front arm, and I would learn the dog first as the base. And then once you learn the dog and you're comfortable with that, they added on the horse, and you only would learn, okay, what's different from the horse from the dog on the arm? And then you would add in the cow, the cat, the bird. Things start to get a little crazy, but you do have to learn the anatomy of everything. But you basically learn the dog as your base, and then you only learn the differences in the other animals. So it makes a little bit less information instead of learning all of everything, if that makes sense. And then
Yeah, go for it. Sorry.
for your physiology, that's kind of like how your body works. And so pretty much the human and the animal and most animals are the same in the physiology. And so once you learn that, it's not too different. But then animals, once you get into the higher semesters when you're taking medicine, so I had to do dogs and cats, but there's certain parasites that might affect a cat versus a dog, so you need to remember those. Or like a sheep, we had to do all that stuff too. So it's kind of just remembering what's different. That's what you need to do.
And it's all based on the dog, like, at least like the
Yeah.
bone structure of it. Why is the dog like the base?
Yeah, I think the dog is the base because that's what's brought into the practices the most. And so, and usually out of all vet students, most of us will go into small animal practice. And so you're dealing with dogs and cats every day. And so that's what most people are going to be most comfortable with. And then if you decide to be a little bit different, then you learn the extras.
Okay, yeah. If I can go back from all your studying that you had to do for animals, like different many animals, I'm sure you had to do a bunch of studying. So what were your efficient ways of studying, or was it still part of the process throughout your schooling to still try to understand how?
Yes, definitely. That's a good question. So, I graduated from undergrad, and my method then wasn't the best. I'm not going to lie. I just crammed during the weekdays, like Monday through Thursday. I was in the library from, right after classes ended until midnight or something like that. And it worked, and it got me the grades that I needed, but I could have studied better. But then I had some time off in between vet school, or in between undergrad and vet school, and I kind of lost those study habits. And when I entered again, I had to regain all those study skills and improve them. And so it depends on the subject, but like anatomy is very, very interactive. And so I had to go into the labs all the time and be touching things and remember things by just seeing it and feeling it. But then with other subjects, like say, for example, toxicology is all the toxic things that animals can eat or be exposed to. So that's a lot of memorization. And for that, I'm a huge writer. And so I have different colored pens. I ordered, I think it's PenMade or something like that. And it has like a pack of 30 different colored sharp point markers. And I learned that if you write things in color, it kind of sticks in your brain a little bit better. And so when I hand wrote my notes and did color, it really helped me. I'm not a really big flashcard person, but I know that it does help a lot of students. And I use textbooks. Like, I know that it's, you see a textbook and you just normally don't want to reach for it, but sometimes you just need to reference the book and get a little bit of clarification. Maybe your professor explained it in a way that doesn't really work for you, but the textbook might clarify something for you. So it's always a good second reference. But I am a late night studier also. I was in the library when the sun came up, and we had roosters on our campus, and I would wake up with the roosters while I was studying, and that meant it was time for me to go home and go to sleep before I had to go to classes. But it really, and I found that for me, people called me crazy. I'm not gonna lie about that, but it was no distractions. Like, no one was texting me, you know, no one was up, and so I just had myself and my books. So that worked for me. Yeah. Definitely.
That's really interesting. You use colored pencils, you also use textbooks, and you did all that. Okay. I need to take notes on the going back to the textbooks, because I clearly don't do that. Okay, so Christina had a question, if she can unmute herself and ask her question.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't exactly know how to word this, but like you talk about how you like you learn about like a bunch of animals, but what if you want to like specialize in one animal? Like, I'm guessing like you need to know like the knowledge of all the other animals to like, cause like that's important. But when you're like done with school and you are like applying for a job, is there like do you like specialize in one animal, or do you have to like know everything?
Yep, that's a really good question. So okay, when you're done with vet school, there is an 8-hour exam that you need to take. And on that exam has every animal. So you need to know that. That's in order to get your doctorate. So if you don't pass that, you don't get to be a vet, but you can take it multiple times. Don't worry. So you need to know every animal, which kind of stinks because like that makes sense for me. I had to learn horses, cows. We had sheep and donkeys to take care of the whole semester, our last semester, like our own little sheep and donkeys. They were really fun, but I'm not interested in learning about that kind of medicine. So it kind of stinks because I felt like it took up a lot of my brain space that I could have used to develop my passion for cats and dogs a little bit further. But it's just something that comes with the program, and you need to know it. But so for my clinical rotations, which is going to be at Cornell this year, you have 2-week blocks of, for example, you're only going to do x-rays on animals, or you're only going to do horses for 2 weeks. And so for me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to take that exam, and I'm going to do that rotation on horses, and then I'll be done. And then I can focus more of my energy on the dogs and cats, if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. But I have a few more questions now. Okay, so now that you're going to Cornell, is that like, did you apply for that, or did you get stationed there?
Yep, so Ross University has a unique program where it's actually an accelerated program, so it's faster than some other veterinary schools that you can graduate. But what's different about their program is that you can choose what school you want to do your rotations at. So I chose Cornell, but some people are going to Florida, some people are going to LSU, some people are going to UC Davis. So it just depends. But say if you went to a state school like UC Davis, are you guys familiar with that one? It's in California. Yeah. Say if you went there, you would do your clinical rotations only at that school. So you would do all of your schooling, and then you would do your rotations there and then be done with it. So some people see that as a good thing. You know, you're there the whole time and you're with the same program, which is definitely, there's positives and negatives to both programs. But for me, I thought it's nice. I get a change of scenery, and I get to move to a new place and meet some more people. So it just depends. But I did choose Cornell. You choose your top 4 schools at Ross, and then it's a big ceremony where everybody opens up their envelopes at the same time and figures out where they're going, and everybody starts screaming and crying and jumping for joy. So it's really fun.
Okay, I have another question. So after you're like done with the wait, I don't know what's it called. Like when you're at Cornell, like is that is there like a term for that?
Rotations.
Oh, after you're done with all your rotations and do you like apply to like a clinic, like a vet or right? And do you say like what animals you want to specialize in, or do you just like take care of whatever animals people bring in?
Yes. So it depends on the clinic. So there's some things that are, only cats and dogs. And then some places have small, like they call it small animal usually. So you would have your cats and dogs, and you can do exotics. So that would be bringing in birds, turtles, snakes, the different animals that people have, like guinea pigs, stuff like that. They have a thing called mixed animal practice, where that's cats, dogs, and horses usually, or maybe goats and sheep. Or you can do farm animals. So that's going to be like cows and sheep and goats and stuff like that. We even have to learn llamas and alpacas and deer, like you name it, we had to learn it. But then there's an option that I'm considering, but I'm not sure about it yet. But so after I'm done with vet school and my rotations, I have my degree and I'm done. But then you can do an extra year of an internship, and then you apply to be a resident. So that your internship is 1 year and your residency is 3 years. And say I wanted to specialize in feline medicine, then I can do that. That's cat medicine. So I can, and then from then on, I would be the go-to doctor for that. Like after you do your residency, that's the highest you can get, and people will send all their hardest cases to you. And so that's what's kind of interesting to me. Like I told you guys, I loved that medicine course. I can specialize in medicine, and I can be that go-to person. If you can't figure out what is going on with this case, I've run every test. I don't know what's going on. You can send that animal to me, and I can dig a little deeper. And I have some more resources to do some more like fancy testing. So you can also specialize in things like radiology. So that's just doing x-rays and MRIs and knowing how to interpret that and telling the doctor, okay, I see this on the x-ray. Maybe you didn't pick that up, but you should take a second look at this. So you can specialize. What else? You can do anesthesia. So that's something that human doctors can also specialize in, and that's just making sure when you're doing a procedure that the animal is staying safe under anesthesia and they're not having any problems with their bodies. So there's a lot of different areas you can specialize in, but that would take an extra 4 years. But you're working that whole time, but you're making less of a salary, so that's something to consider.
Thank you. Yeah, that helped a lot. Thanks.
Sure.
That was a lot of great information. I actually wanted to be a vet when I was a freshman in high school. So
Really?
these are some things, yeah. And that kind of leads to my next question, because I found out that I am squeamish around blood. So
Yeah.
I'm very curious for what are the most common reasons, and potentially some of the people that you know who may have dropped out. What are the things, the reasons why they dropped out, and are those preventable before even getting into veterinary school?
Yeah, so some people have dropped out of the program. Mostly at Ross, it's because the program is too difficult, because I told you guys it's a condensed program, so it's faster than normal veterinary programs. And so some people just really can't keep up with the pace that you need to learn everything with. So maybe in that case, they would be a better fit at a different school, because we're on trimester, so we have 3 semesters a year versus another vet school. Most of them are only on the 2 semesters a year, so they go a little bit slower, and maybe they would be a better fit at that school. But there's also some people that just find out like they're not really interested in the veterinary aspect and fixing these animals. Like sometimes, you might have such a passion for animals and you want to help them as much as you can, but you might not be as passionate about how to fix their problems as you thought you might be. Because it is, some people, maybe you find out you're squeamish around blood, and like that's a part of most daily practices. Now, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit later about the different areas you can go to in veterinary medicine. So sometimes you don't always need to, be taking blood, but if that's something that's not good for you, some people might reconsider.
Yeah, so yeah, that's okay. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so what so you kept saying how okay, courses can be hard. I've also heard from other vets that they have loads of work to add on. So what so I'm assuming so what kept you motivated throughout your vet journey?
I actually have kind of a bummer story for you guys, but so the day before my first day of vet school, my dog died. He got attacked at his doggy daycare, like because my parents came down to come and visit me and help move me in, and he got attacked and he had to be put down from the brain damage from that. And so that it happened the day before vet school, and I think that might have been a sign or something, but it helped me so much because it just kept me really motivated, like maybe one day I'll be able to save my dog, something like that. And so that was really one of my biggest motivations. But also Steve Irwin was my number one guy. I cried for days when he died, and so just being somebody that's really inspirational, that also just really pushed me to keep on going.
Yeah, that's definitely really sad. Talking about putting down, not to get negative, but have you seen or have you done have you put down animals and like how does that feel or how would you deal with that?
Yes, that is something that when I was thinking about going to vet school, and you have to do mandatory shadowing hours. And so for me, I had to get 150 hours of being at a vet clinic and just, just following around. You're silent because you can't do anything, but you're watching everything that's going on. And that was one thing that the vet said, make sure you can handle this or else vet medicine might not be a good fit for you. So that's not something that we really do in school, but you learn when you're practicing at other places. So I have done it and been around it, and it is really difficult and sad because everybody in the room is crying, and it's just a super sad situation every time you do it. But also I've learned from doing it that most of the time the animals are not living their best quality of life, and it's just like they're kind of suffering, but the owners don't often want to put them down and let them go because you're so emotionally attached. But I feel that most of the time I'm doing the animal a better service by putting it to sleep, and it's so peaceful the way that they go. So it doesn't make me too squeamish, but it's definitely a sad thing that you have to go through a lot. So that's something that you need to consider if you're looking into being a veterinarian, that are you comfortable doing that?
That's where like your psychology course of happiness comes back to help you out, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, Christina's got a question. Go for it, Christina.
Sure.
So I'm not sure if you like what's the process if like while you're like taking care of an animal and it like dies on you, like
Mhm.
like what happens, like what's the process in that? And also what if like you feel like it's the best decision to put down an animal but like the owner doesn't want to, like what would you do then?
Yeah. Those are some of the hardest situations that you need to deal with. So the one that if the owner doesn't want to put it down, you can't make the owner do that. So you just need to try and use your best persuasion tools, but not, you can't be overbearing and force them to do anything, but you can just offer your opinion. And if they trust you, and if, maybe they've been going to you for a few years and they really trust your opinion, then they're a little bit more likely to listen. But you just have to accept if they're not going to put the animal down, that you did what you could, you suggested it, and then you just have to move on, because you can't dwell on those things, or else that feeling of just the weight will add, and that doesn't feel good on anybody. But the other question, as far as if the dog randomly dies on you, so there's a couple situations, and that kind of depends on you need to be insured, and so it depends on if you were doing something right that you should have been, or if you were doing something that you should not have been. And so you can get into a lawsuit if you were not doing the correct thing, because some owners will sue you, and we've learned a lot about that in school as well. Like, we don't only learn the medicine, but we learn how to deal with clients and everything like that as well. And so you need to be prepared for lawsuits, I think, when you become a vet or a doctor, because the USA is the #1 country for people to sue others. And so they'll kind of try and get you for whatever they can. But if you were doing the right thing, then you have nothing to be worried about. You're protected with your insurance.
And that is too true about the lawsuits. It's almost like the what do you call it when you hit the knee and the knee pops, the knee-jerk reaction. It's like, oh, something happened, I got to sue somebody about it.
Yes, exactly.
I do want to touch a little bit on the client side of things, because as a doctor of veterinary medicine of these animals, you also potentially could be running your own business and interacting with these people, which is like, I can hear you, I can communicate with you, I can't with these, and I feel more comfortable here sometimes. So can you tell us a little bit more about like what you learn about this communication with people?
Yeah. So we have a course at Ross that deals with client communication throughout your 7 semesters there when you're doing your original classes. So we do client simulations, and so there's locals that will volunteer to do simulations on a fake case and things that might go wrong. And so in my last semester there was the most difficult lab that we had, but it was still really, really useful and interactive and fun. But it was clients that acted like they were so angry, or if they were just like crying in the room, and it really does feel like they are actors and they know what they're doing. And so it really helps you to prepare how to deal with the clients. But there's also just so many things that we've learned throughout the program that help you to be prepared. And even if you think you're going to be a vet, you still need to be like a good person around people. You need to deal with people all the time and talk to your clients, because they're the ones that are supporting this animal and making the decisions. So I think something that some students don't really think about before they go to vet school is how much you have to deal with clients, but it is a really big factor of your day.
Oh wow, so you guys really do get prepared with like patients and then animals. Okay, I can see how that works. Okay. Aside from like patients and animals, how would surgery go? Is it like, do a bunch of people work with each other, or like are you independently working on an animal?
Yeah, so I have taken a couple surgery courses and done a bunch of surgeries recently during my last semester, and it was really, really fun. We did surgeries on our donkeys and sheep, and I did spay and neuter on dogs and cats. So you learn the basics first. So I learned how to do my stitches. When you get stitches at the hospital, we use a lot of the same techniques that they do in human medicine, but I learned that using just like cloth, because you can't hurt anything, right? And then once I got really good at it and my patterns started to look nice and they were the right depth of the skin and everything, because there's different layers of the skin and you have to know, okay, with this pattern, I'm going to go through this layer of skin and whatever. So you have to be very confident that you know what you're doing, and you're not just going in blindly, even though you're just using your hands. Like I can't help but do it as I talk to you guys. But surgery, when you're in practice, is usually just the vet, and then you have a vet tech, and then you'll have someone watching the anesthesia for you, because that's a job in itself to make sure that the dog is breathing, it has an appropriate heart rate, and good blood flow, because the doctor can't be watching everything like that while they're trying to do surgery on this dog, because you want to get it done as soon as you can, but as efficiently as possible so that you can keep the dog under anesthesia for a lesser time. So, but for me, when I do my spays and my neuters and just regular surgeries, like if the dog ate something and I got to get it out of its belly because that happens all the time, I would be doing that by myself. But for example, in horse medicine, you see pictures of horses under anesthesia, and there's maybe like 5 surgeons around the table because their intestines are just so massive and they just keep coming out and out. And so you just need people to kind of hold them back and do work at different times. So you're trying to get the horse back up and walking in the shortest amount of time possible. So you can be alone, but the more difficult or the larger the animal, you can have other vets with you in the process.
I'm learning about so much right now. I got a question about, you talk about horses, talk about like the farm, kind of that farm track. I've read, I guess, over the past few years that there's a lack of veterinarians in rural areas, and I'm hoping that just to learn about anything that you know in that realm of just, veterinarian.
Yes. So there is a program that you can apply to, and you can be a vet in a rural area. Like the government will kind of assign you to which location they really need vets the most. And it depends on, you might be doing farm animals, but you might just be doing small animals too. But you get paid a significant amount more, and I think they help you with the student loans, if I'm not mistaken. But there is also a huge, huge need for animals in the dairy industry and like chickens. So because if you guys think about it, like the beef industry, the milk that we have, there are so many cows and chickens, laying our eggs and being the meat that people eat. And so there's a really, really big need for that. And that's an area that will pay a lot, but not as many people are interested in it. So if you are interested, you can make some serious money. But it's definitely something to consider. But you need to be, I would say, less attached to the animals and more business minded, because these farmers are trying to make money and trying to run a business. And so you need to realize that they're not going to spend a lot of money on an animal that might be going to the meat industry in a couple months. So sometimes you need to just be a little bit less attached than you would be in small animal. And that would be something to consider as well if you're going to go into the dairy industry or the chickens and things like that.
Okay. Oh wow, that's okay. So talking about industries and like different areas of business, what are like the career pathways that you would probably consider for others or even yourself, to choose from?
Yeah. So something that people don't realize, that if you get a degree in veterinary medicine, there's so many different pathways that you can choose. For example, a lot of people think that of a vet as just that person that you take your dog to when they need their yearly shots, or they have an ear infection and you need some antibiotics or something to clear it up. But there's also emergency medicine, where you can work hours at night and you never know what's going to come in the door. It's dogs hit by a car, or like jumped over a fence and scraped their leg, and you have to think on your toes, and you have to think fast, and you also have to stay calm, because if you are freaking out, then the owners are going to freak out and your technicians are going to freak out. And that they're kind of like your nurses. We have technicians, and so they kind of help you do all the side things. But if you're nervous, they're going to be nervous. So you need to keep your cool. But there's also different areas like the pharmaceutical industry. So in that case, you don't even need to work with animals at all. You just need to know the science behind things, and you need to do a lot of research, do research papers, and understand what is the current, like the most current science out there, and how can you improve those animals using this certain drug. you need to understand pharmacology. So that's the interaction of drugs with the body. And that's a class that we take in vet school, but you need to kind of go a step further with that. But in that case, you wouldn't even be working with animals, but you are the vet in that case. You can also be a vet that does only research. So if you're really interested in improving monkeys in Brazil and how they live, you can do that. So you don't need to do like your general practice. I had some other things written down because there's so many areas that you can do that sometimes I forget. Where did I put it? I'll think of it. I'll think of it later. Oh, you can be a professor as well, which is actually an area that I would like to go into. So when I get my degree, I'm planning on teaching at a community college or another school around me for about 5 years, and then I would like to become a professor on semester at sea, which is where we studied abroad. So that's kind of like my long-term goal, but you can also just be a professor and you wouldn't work with animals as often. Say if I was just like a pharmacology professor, because that's just you're sitting in the classroom teaching the drug interactions and that's basically it. But say if you were a surgery professor, then you're working with the animals all the time, or a medicine professor. You're working with them and you're showing the students different things. So sometimes you don't even work with animals when you're a vet. But you can also choose to work with them every day, all day. So it really depends.
Those are a lot of tracks, and I'm sure that continuously we will probably create more because that's what humanity does.
Yeah.
Maybe eventually veterinarians will be the ones to work with alien populations when we meet them.
Maybe.
Who knows? We're going to have to start wrapping up soon. And Kayla and Danya know my last question here oh too well. I always change it up though, but this is your 30-second pitch, your elevator pitch, but we'll put it into a setting that maybe you know. You're in your scrubs. You are ready to finish a long day. You've done a lot of neutering, a lot of spaying. You've had a couple criers, and it's a regular day, but it's been long. And a high school student comes into your office and just busts in the back door, and like the person was like, "I'm sorry, I couldn't stop him." And this high school student like strolls right up to you and is like, "Why should I become a vet?" And now is your chance.
Okay. Well, you should become a vet because you can change animals' lives and you can improve them for the better. And you can also explain to owners what's happening with their animals in a way that everyone can understand and everyone can benefit from. I think like that's number one right there. You're improving everybody's lives all around, clients and animals.
Awesome. Thank you, Carly.
Yeah.
So I'm going to share the screen now. This is our chance to wrap up, and let's get that off there. All right, to wrap up in some reflection here, feel free to write if you want. If not, this is a good chance to just talk about stuff, because something that Carly and I experienced on semester at sea is we did these post-sport reflections where 100 or so students would get in the same room and talk about the experience from all different angles. Going to I remember Morocco was interesting because I was a male and there were plenty of females in the ship that went, and the way in which people in Morocco treated me was vastly different. And so I had to see that trip through another set of eyes, and it really helped. So love to hear from everybody. If you want to write, that's fine. If not, go ahead and shout some stuff out. Danya, there's a request still sitting on the table that you had of Carly at the very beginning, and I'd just like to remind that of you. Joke, comico.
Oh yeah, and also as our reflections are going, if you guys would like to tell a joke, that would be nice.
You got one, Carly?
Okay, I did get a pretty pathetic one. Let me see. Where did it go? Oh, what happens when it rains cats and dogs? You can step in a poodle. Really pathetic.
Oh my god.
I'm gonna give that one an A plus. A plus.
Thank you.
That was great. A+ too.
Donnie, did
I
you
got
find
one. I
You
got one.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay. What is the strongest animal? Think about it.
Oh gosh.
I'm gonna say gorilla.
Yeah, but that's not funny.
That's not funny.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know.
A snail, because he carries his house in his back.
Oh, all right.
True.
All
That
right.
wasn't really a joke, but that was something.
Oh, well, Umi says, I learned that there are many routes that you could take that could cater to whatever you feel like would be best fit for you. Absolutely. And there's always a path, especially if you love one thing, there's like 500 different directions that thing could go. And I made the joke earlier that how far down does that rabbit hole go? Anyways, Kayla says, even though I was in the car for 99% of it, I learned that being a vet takes a lot of schooling and knowledge on many types of animals, bone, body structures. Absolutely. And also to add on to that is like the dog. It starts with the dog and then everything is different based on the dog. That's really cool. Christina, the psychology of happiness class is really interesting to me. And I think I might look into that when I go to college. I learned that one of the things necessary to being a vet is getting rotations and shadow hours. I also overlooked the part of the job that involves interacting with people. I also learned that to be a veterinarian, you need to take an 8-hour exam, which is cray. But I hope I got that part right. But I see why that is important. Absolutely. That is pretty cray. 8 hours. That's a full work day of testing.
That's nuts.
Ooh, ouch.
If you guys have any questions or if you ever need to contact me to maybe get some shadowing hours in the vet world or whatever, you're welcome to get my information through Stefan to reach out, okay?
I will definitely be passing that along. All right, real quick, the last couple things here. Obviously, as many of you know, we've got a lot of programs going on throughout the week. Parent support, really helping out and translating documents, getting in touch with students to make sure their parents know what's going on. And next week, we're going to need help translating the June informational interview stuff. So any language, all language, come and do that so we can get that out to parents. Article discussions on Tuesdays. Adriana, any article that's happening tomorrow? Anything that you know?
I couldn't find my mouse, so I mute myself. Yes, there is an article discussion about mass incarceration happening tomorrow.
Ooh, mass incarceration. Mass incarceration. Thank you, Adriana. On Wednesdays, we have Christina and Kayla to do some work on your body, getting all fit, getting pumped. Anything that we need to know, Kayla or Christina?
I won't be there, so Kayla will be taking over.
Oh, 'cause you
Yes,
got
I will.
AP, right?
Yeah, I have a test that day.
Not 8 hours though, thankfully. On Wednesday, we will also be interviewing in another informational interview, Helen Dillon and Cindy Mai. They are healthcare administrators here in Portland metro area in Hillsborough. So come and join us for that same time. I think we actually are filled up on the Connectors communication team. And the last one is game days on Fridays with Marion Allen. Carly came last week and got second place to myself because I'm not going to count Adriana winning in that one. We're a little too competitive to let that. Oh, she won. I'll give her that. She won. She won that one. So we'll meet you there. If everybody could, you know what? I think I can do this now. I think I know how to do this. I'm going to just try and unmute. Oh, it's hard to do when you're on here. Ever just unmute yourselves. Let's do that. Let's make sure that you're unmuted. And let's just thank Carly so much for being here. We really appreciate it. You were fantastic.
Thank you guys. I loved everything about today. It was really awesome. So I'm glad I got to interact with all of you guys.
Woo!
Yippee!
Thanks,
There you go,
Carly.
Kayla. There's that yippee. Yeah.
Yeah.